Well, good afternoon, everybody. Todd Shriver with you here this afternoon as we're going to continue our preview of candidates here. The upcoming primary election is going to take place on May 3rd. This afternoon, we're being joined by Stacey Diener, one of the two Republican candidates for prosecutor. Stacey, welcome this afternoon.
Thank you.
Well, let's get started here. We're going to allow you the opportunity to give a little brief bio about who you are.
Thank you. My name is Stacey Diener. I am a Republican candidate for White County Prosecutor. I went to Purdue University, where I graduated with a degree in English, followed by Valparaiso University for my law degree. My first job out of law school was as the Chief Deputy Prosecutor in Pulaski County. I'm married to Dave Diener.
Started here with question number one for you. We're going to have actually two parts here. Why did you decide to run for the position of White County Prosecutor, and what makes you the best candidate for the job?
The reason I'm running is because I was previously an elected prosecutor for 12 years in Pulaski County. I left that position to move to White County to be close to family, and I truly miss the leadership role. I think I'm the best candidate because I bring to the table 28 years of experience as a prosecutor and 12 as an elected prosecutor. I have great ideas for positive progress and the knowledge to implement those changes seamlessly.
We'll move on here to question number two, and I know this is sometimes people may have a difficulty understanding this, but how do you decide whether a case goes to trial or settled with a plea?
I appreciate that question because sometimes people look at plea agreements as a negative thing, but plea agreements in my situation happen when a defendant wants to accept responsibility and plead guilty, and we have an agreement as to what the consequences should be. So really, in that situation, a plea agreement is the best solution for everyone. It prevents victims from needing to go through the trial process, and I think it's beneficial when defendants want to accept responsibility. But we go to trial when we have evidence that points toward guilt that is strong enough to go to trial, and where a defendant doesn't want to take responsibility. Then it's appropriate to go to trial and let the court decide after a jury deliberates on the evidence.
Police agencies here, do you have a good working relationship with the local police agencies in the county?
Yes, and I foster that relationship by always making sure that officers have my phone number to contact me if they ever have questions or concerns. A lot of times what we do is give them feedback about how what they're doing in the field will play out in the courtroom. So that's our line of communication, and it's available to them 24/7. I really enjoy the aspect of working with law enforcement, supporting their efforts, and doing so with shared resources, and just want to put them in the best position for an outcome that serves justice, not just for law enforcement, but for victims, for the community as a whole.
An attorney, sometimes it's not an easy job. What is the toughest case you've worked on in your career, and what was the outcome?
I spent a lot of time thinking about what you might mean by tough. Because,
and you can define it many different ways.
Yes. And, trial is a very challenging situation. You don't know the outcome, although you like to be able to predict it. And I've been to trial for murder, child molest, many, intricate crimes. But the toughest case to me was one that involved the investigation part of it. And, we work hand in hand with law enforcement in certain situations. And so the one that came to mind was one in Pulaski County when there was an allegation of child neglect resulting in death. And I actually worked on this case closely with Stephanie Thompson of the state police. She was a detective at the time, and with DCS, which is the Department of Child Services. And we spent a very long time, I would say in excess of a year, trying to look at the evidence and piece things together. And it required the coordination of not only with the state police, but also the coroner, Department of Child Services, and multiple pathologists. We actually exhumed the body of this child for further investigation and spent many months working together. And ultimately, it was a situation where the evidence was such that we did not go forward with the prosecution. But I would say that was the toughest.
Well, our final question for you. Election day is coming up Tuesday, May 3rd. Obviously, early voting starting April 5th. Any final ideas, information you would like to share with the voters of White County?
Yes, I believe it's true that although we are a rural community and isolated from big cities, big city problems have found their way to us. We have serious crime in White County, and I think the community is best served by a prosecutor with decades of experience, and I am the only candidate that brings that to the table. I am the most prepared on day one to serve the community in all capacities of the prosecutor's office.